Right, everyone. Want to say good afternoon to everyone. My name is Derek Ma. I'm the managing partner for Ken Blanchard Products in Singapore, and we are really pleased and honored to have you here for this brown paper bag session. Today's session is going to be hosted by Kevin Chan. Kevin Chan was the regional managing partner who looked over Singapore, but now he is actually overseeing our regional efforts in Southeast Asia. Kevin Chan is the managing partner that oversees leadership solutions. He brings 20 years of experience in varied industries, ranging from military to IT to banking and to food and beverage. So there's a lot more I can say about Kevin. He's been all over the world doing a lot of different things, but now he is not only our presenter today, but he's also my boss. That which he needs a lot of praise for to put up with me. But we are ready for Kevin Chan. And so, Kevin, I hand it over to you. He's going to be talking about team leadership. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you very much, Derek. Okay. It's always a bit embarrassing when people do these introductions. But let's jump into it. We have about half an hour together today, and half an hour, we don't really want to make it like super salesy. I don't think that's the point. What we want to do is, let's stop my share first. Let's just give you an overview of what this team leadership, some of the concepts, some of the frameworks, have a little bit of interaction. So straight after this, we'll have a bit of interaction. So we'll use Jamboard, and maybe we'll get Derek to chuck the Jamboard link in the chat right now. We have a bit of interaction, see where you guys, what your feel is on the issues that teams face, and then we'll break it down together a little bit. We use some of the frameworks that we teach in the session, and that'll give you a bit of a teaser into what the full workshop is like. Okay, so if we go to Jamboard right now, and I'll go to that and share my screen. So Derek, if you can pop that link in the chat, that'll be
already there.
Everybody,
one step ahead of you.
So good. Okay, so if you click on that link, you'll get to this screen that I'm sharing. And here you can, you go to any training workshop, right? You've got sticky notes. So if you follow my cursor, you go to sticky note here, right? You can put down what are some internal challenges teams face. Okay, so I added the word internal there because we don't really want to address external challenges that are not within what a team can influence. Okay, so what are some of the problems that teams face that are internally sort of influenced? Okay, so cross-team miscommunication, great. Okay, anyone else? Go ahead and put your sticky notes, your comments in there. Another one, for example, is don't have technical knowledge or not enough. Okay. Okay. Can everybody figure out how to use Jamboard? Unplanned absences, great. Thank you very much. Conflict, oh yeah. Okay, great. We've got some really good challenges coming up. Yeah, what else? Another quite common one, I think, is making okay, or maybe how are decisions made? Yeah, lack of motivation. Okay. How about this late not meeting milestones, project milestones? Okay, what other challenges do teams face? Maybe let's get 4 more. Okay, we'll get 4 more challenges you've seen happen in teams. Unplanned absences, who's making decisions, not enough technical knowledge, fairly distributed workload. Do you mean unfairly? Okay, I'll change it to unfairly. I assume if it's not correct, then just put a You can unmute and yell at me, no, don't change that. Or put a note in chat, that's fine. Terrible meetings. Okay, cool. Any more? Maybe a couple more. Reactive in abrupt situations. Okay, so that's a issue with planning. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, sure. Okay. One more. Let's go for one more. One more. Oh, great. Staff retention, lack of motivation to change inherited culture. Wow, that sounds very specific there. I do think I can't tell who is doing this. Okay, so now we are going to split this into two sections. Okay, we'll use a marker here. Two types of challenges. One being productivity, the key challenges, and another one being morale challenges. Okay, so if you want to go in there and move the post-its around, which of these challenges are productivity issues at core? I mean, some of them will be a mix. A lot of things actually will be, there'll be effects to both productivity and morale. But there is you can think about primary effects, right? So, for example, whose lack of motivation, right? That's primarily a morale issue. So we'll move it over here. It will probably have impact on productivity, but it's primarily a morale issue. Okay, so go ahead and move the post-its around. Go and play with it, and then we can see where we end up with. How do we categorize these challenges? Okay, not meeting project milestones. Yeah, that's productivity. Unplanned absences. Yeah, unfairly reactive, abrupt situations. Yeah, okay, that impacts morale, not enough technical knowledge. Lack of motivation, conflict. Yeah, all that's morale. Great. Who's making decisions? Morale, productivity. Yeah, so that one maybe we'll put it in the middle. Staff retention. Yeah, morale could be caused by a morale issue, and then it has impact on productivity, right? Definitely. Great. Okay, so this is the first framework that we actually cover. So feel free, I mean, if you want to continue playing with that, you can go ahead, but we won't continue sharing that. So we're talking about how to build a high performance team. And so in building high performance team, what are the challenges, what are the obstacles between where we are today and having a high performance team? Because if your team already was high performance, then we don't have to do this workshop, right? So what are some of the obstacles? And actually, there are two lenses through which we can look at performance in a team. One is productivity. So just now, I asked you at the start, list all the challenges that you can think of. And so we had maybe about 12, something on there. And then we say, okay, how can we categorize these? And really they can be categorized. Almost all the challenges teams face, all the obstacles between where you are now and being a high performance team can be categorized into these two categories. One is productivity, where there's an impact in the quality of work accomplished, right, in relation to the team's purpose and goals. So your team might be really productive in eating pizza, right, but not very productive in what they're supposed to do. So it has to be in relation to the team's purpose and goals. So optimal productivity, fixing this productivity issue really depends on clear goals, measurable results. Okay, so are the goals clear? I started my career in the IT industry. I did about 10, 12 years in IT. And so often we start off and the goals are not clear. The requirements are not clear enough. And then that creates, so initially the salesperson will go and sell this solution, whatever it is. And they intentionally have it a bit vague, right? Because you want to make the sale. And then when it comes to people actually doing the project, now the goals are not that clear. The requirements are not that clear. So that becomes a problem. Technical knowledge and skills. Do the people in the team have the technical knowledge and skills? Quite apart from people skills, social skills, conflict resolution skills, apart from the technical knowledge and skills to do the work. The team's ability to collaborate and achieve results. So this goes beyond the technical area. Now it's the ability to work together. And then what are the team's problem-solving, decision-making practices? So if we look back here, right, we've got technical knowledge here, we've got some team communication here, project milestones, terrible meetings. All these are things that you come up with, that fall under the productivity area. Second area, morale. Sense of well-being in belonging to the team, satisfaction that comes from accomplishing its work. Okay, so the word well-being is intentionally broad because there are lots of ways of where somebody can come to work, be working in a team, and have a sense of well-being. They can feel safe, they can feel confident, they can feel proud. Wow, I'm doing this. My team is awesome. They can feel very well accepted, right? People on my team like me, they accept me, I like the people around me, we enjoy hanging out together. So all this feeds into the idea of morale. So the enthusiasm, optimism, you don't have to be enthusiastic all the time. It's life, right? We go through life at times, sometimes we're not, that's not enthusiastic. But with high morale, that's going to be part of the equation. Optimism, hey, even if we have problems, we can overcome it because I've got a great team. Relationship, good relationships and cooperation. Praise, recognition, appropriate leadership. So if again we go back and look at the what's the challenges that we came up with: conflict, lack of motivation to change the culture, so there's very much morale. Reactive and abrupt situations, lack of motivation. So all these are morale issues that we came up with, and are really important to a team. They can be an obstacle to a team accomplishing what they need to do. So if we've got, take these two categories of either obstacles, they're just factors really, because if we do them well, then they will empower our teams. If we don't do them well, then they're obstacles. Okay, so these are just two factors. And we put the factors together. If you look at teams, all teams go through quite predictable stages in their development. Okay, and the stages can be defined as different levels of productivity and morale during the phase, these team stages. So there is a quick video here, I think it's about 2.5-minute video, which I'll play, and then we can watch it. It explains these stages really well, and then we'll come back and do a bit of a recap. So Derek, if you can switch on your video, and I'll start the video. If you can switch on your video. I'll start the video. If you've got volume, just give me a thumbs up.
The team leadership model describes 4 stages of development that teams go through sequentially from getting started to mastery. Each stage displays a different level of productivity, the team's effectiveness in accomplishing its work, and morale, how team members feel about their team and their work. Team stage can be determined by identifying the levels of productivity and morale. At Team Stage 1, or T1, the orientation stage, a team is either newly formed or beginning a new goal. At this stage, productivity is low and morale is moderate to high. With high expectations but little experience, the team is dependent upon the leader for guidance. This team needs clarity above all else in order to align for results. As a team moves into Team Stage 2, or T2, the dissatisfaction stage, the team encounters challenges. Productivity starts to improve, but morale goes down significantly. Members often become either confrontational or withdrawn. The team needs to embrace conflict in order to grow. Each team member must actively participate with candor and curiosity as they learn how to communicate during conflict. At Team Stage 3, or T3, the integration stage, a team is starting to work together better. Productivity is moderate to high, and morale is moderate. Team members are working more cooperatively, but are still learning to trust each other. Teams thrive on trust, and this team needs to build team cohesion in order to reach high performance. Once a team has reached Team Stage 4, or T4, the production stage, it is highly productive and has high morale. The team has reached peak performance, and each member takes responsibility for sharing leadership. This team needs to focus on sustaining high performance and taking on new challenges. And those are the 4 team stages that teams go through on the way to becoming a high-performance team.
Okay. So these are the 4 stages that teams go through, and they, 95%, 99% of teams will go through these phases. Sometimes they skip T1. Sometimes a team gets a job and they already are super busy and they are already like, man, I really don't want this, but my boss said I have to do this, no choice. So they can start off at T2. But usually, say a team forms, you have your kickoff meeting, you have, hey, somebody sharing the vision of a new project that you're doing. Wow, very excited. Team starts at T1. Okay, so at that point, low productivity because they don't really know. Maybe they've got skills that they brought over from their previous projects or whatever, but they don't really know how it's going to impact, how it's going to be brought to play in that team for that project. Okay, so at this point, morale is moderate to high. They're quite excited, new project and all that. And what we need to do here is to align for results. We need to be aligned. So we'll come to that shortly. There needs to be alignment. And the more we can align, the more we can over-communicate, set the ground rules, how are decisions made, who makes decisions, as much clarity as we can about the goals. Even if we spend a bit extra time, that's worth it as an investment in the future. And then invariably what happens with T2 is that when the team starts to do the job, they go, hey, actually, it's not as easy as I thought. Actually, wow, I didn't realize there's this problem, there's that problem. There's this bit of the scope that we thought was clear, but actually now that we put our hands to it, it's not as clear as we thought. All these things come in, right? And that morale takes, because they go, and what? And then, you start working, say you've got different people in the team, now you start having conflict. Yeah, I thought I was making decision. Why you jump in? You didn't ask me. That all that kind of stuff, right? And so that's that dissatisfaction phase. Even if it's the same team, but they're working on a new task. Maybe one of the processes change, or this team has a different project. Because the project or the task is different, the roles that people play could be different, could change. And so while in the previous project they were at T4, they're like, yeah, I know exactly what everybody's doing. Because now it's a new project, now things get sort of tossed in the air again and has to be realigned again. Okay, so when they make it out of T2, so T2, if T1 was done well, there's a lot of clarity. T2 phase can be short or shallow. Okay, so the morale doesn't dip so much, or they get over it quite quickly. If T1 was done well, and T2, they're able to communicate, they've got good conflict management skills, they're able to get out of it quickly. Moving to T3, productivity is increasing. Now, okay, now you know roughly what we're doing, morale is increasing. That's where the team starts to perform, starts to do things right. We start to get some results, but still not 100% sure that this is definitely the way to go. T4 is when they've been getting consistent results and they're confident, okay, this is the way to go. And that's what we want. We want this high performance teams. So overall, this is the model that the Blanchard team leadership framework takes. Any of you who've done SL2 will find this very familiar. Okay, so I'll talk about some of the links a bit later. So in T1, the people these are some of the descriptors there. So feel free to take screenshots of these slides. Okay, no issue there. Inexperienced, they're not informed, they're dependent on somebody else. Enthusiastic, high, often unrealistic expectations. Here, sometimes they don't even realize that they're uninformed. Sometimes we say you don't know what you don't know at this stage. T2 is when they start to realize what they don't know. And people sometimes get a bit siloed. Okay, this is the task I'm supposed to do. So they sort of hunker down and work on their task, and they forget about collaboration. Fragmented, inconsistent performance, frustration, confusion. So all these are T2s or descriptors. Confrontation, sometimes this is where it happens. And the full-on course, we go into, we talk about candor versus curiosity. We talk about the skills of how to overcome some of these confrontations and make sure that we hear the input from everybody. T3, functional, technically competent, in general, okay. The problem solving to improve, they're like, yeah, looks like we're okay, but maybe a bit guarded. Let's have a couple more wins before we can 100% say we're T4 with high performance. Right, so these are the descriptors that the teams go through, and as the teams are going through each of these phases, what they need to focus on are these four things. In phase one, the team needs to align for results. They need to be aligned on the goal, on team processes, team rhythm, decision making, who does what roles within the escalation processes. All these are areas that team needs to align on in order to do well, to have a good base. Even with all that, we can minimize, but even with all that alignment, conflict invariably will happen because we are working with people, with human beings. And so when conflict happens, how do we communicate about it? How do we bring it up? There are going to be different power dynamics in the team, right? Somebody who's been around for 20 years, subject matter expert, have done, in his mind, I've done 14 other projects like this, I'm the expert, right? And then you've got the maybe 2 years, 3 years in the job, project administrator. But our project timeline is like this. No, cannot. So how do we work with those power differences? How do you work with even personality? There's some people very assertive, very sanguine. There's some people very phlegmatic. They like to pull back, like to keep quiet, right? So how do we work with all these personalities during conflict? How do we still communicate effectively? That's T2. The focus for T3 is to build that team cohesion. So you see the cup of coffee there, you see everybody, hey, hello. As the team starts to pull together, starts to get their rhythm, it's really good to build some of that team spirit, if you like. Sometimes we try and build team spirit a bit too early, right? At the align for results phase, people are actually very happy, their morale is high. We don't actually need, nothing wrong to do it, but you don't actually need to do all this team building stuff at first stage. Nothing wrong, but it's just time that maybe you can use doing something else. Because the morale is high. When they're coming out of T2, going to T3, that's when actually it's very useful to do some team building activity. Kickstart that team cohesion, the building of team cohesion into T3. So this is something that people quite often get wrong. So if this is one takeaway from you, then it's been worth your half an hour. Finally, in T4 phase, we want to sustain the high performance. Because if we don't sustain it, they do the same thing for a long time. People get bored, they can regress. There is this phenomenon called regression, where it used to be high performance, they're doing the same job, but the results start to slip. What's happening there? Okay, so how do we sustain this high performance and prevent that regression from happening? Okay, so these are the 4 areas that a team needs to focus on. As leaders, there are various things, there are various levers we can pull in order to help the teams make it through those phases, to focus on these things. So there are two levers, if you like, you can pull. Content process. What is the team doing? How is the team working together? Okay, so I won't go too much into this, just leave you with this framework. So the idea, my goal today was to give you all the frameworks, at least at an overview level. So at least you can take screenshots, go back, think about it, and you can apply some of this immediately. The full course will go into more depth into what these frameworks mean, how do we build some of these things out. So that will be covered in the full course. Obviously, you don't have time to do it today. And so as a leader, there are two broad categories of leadership that we can apply. So if you've done SL2, it's similar, right? Except this applies to a team. So firstly, there is directive leadership, where we give structures. It's a bit more telling, it's a bit more organizing, structuring. So these are the provide training, setting boundaries, setting priorities, all that sort of very shaping type behavior is directive leadership. If anything, what Ken Blanchard, all the Ken Blanchard courses bring in to our leadership narrative in the world today is that it is it's acknowledging the need for directive leadership. There's a big push, maybe in the last 10 years, towards coaching, towards listening to people, towards drawing up from them, which is supportive leadership. Okay, so we do talk about supportive leadership. It's there, it's important, and that's what we're all talking about nowadays. But there is still a place for directive leadership, especially in the early stages of a project. Okay, so we have directive leadership, and supportive leadership. So supportive leadership, things like involving people, encouraging them, listening, etc. So these are a list of leadership behaviors which we may use. Okay, so there's more than this. This is just an example. So all these ones in red are directive style leadership behaviors. The ones in blue, the remaining ones, actually without that, it's a bit clearer. The remaining ones are supportive style leadership behavior. Okay, so having these two supportive and directive leadership behaviors, our combination of those will guide how we work with our teams. Maria wanted the directive style. Here you go. So just going to take a screenshot of that. No worries. Okay. Thanks for waiting, everybody. So those directive and supportive style behaviors, they come together in different combinations to give us 4 styles of leadership, depending on where our team stage is at. So when our team is at T1, low productivity, high morale, what we need to do is be highly directive. So remember just now we're talking about setting boundaries, clarity of goals. All that is directive type leadership. Because the morale is relatively high, we don't need a lot of supportive behavior, supportive leadership. So low, it says they're low, right? Low does not mean no, right? Singapore, low crime does not mean no crime. So low supportive behavior does not mean no supportive behavior. We less of it. Because as leaders, we are busy people. We don't have time to spend, doing high everything all the time. When the team's at T2, this is where we need high everything all the time. High directive, hey, do this, do that, but also high supportive leadership, encouraging people, drawing up from them what are problems you are facing. So when a team's at T2, this is where it requires the most input from this leader, because high directive and high supportive. When a team goes into T3, we need more supportive behavior, but now low directive behavior, because the team is generally productive, generally competent. What they need is confidence. What they need is to continue to build that morale for a team to work well together. So all that is supportive behavior. When the team is at T4, we need S4 style, which is a validating style leadership, low directive, low supportive behavior. Okay, again, low does not mean no, because we forget about our teams, our T4 teams. After a while, they're going to regress. So we do need to, still sayang them a little bit. So provide them what they need, acknowledge them, give them, value them, champion them, and that's how we keep them up. Maybe give them a bit of challenge in other tasks that you kind of throw in, where they can start again, so they feel like they're learning something new as well. So this brings together this whole idea of the Blanchard approach to team leadership, where we look at the different phases that teams are at, what stage are they at, and then we apply the correct leadership style for that phase. We don't want to be applying generic leadership style to everybody. Like, this is my style, you all follow me. It's going to work for 1/4 of the time. It won't work for the other 3/4 of the situations, which is why it's called situational leadership, which is the cornerstone, the sort of philosophy of Blanchard. So, I mean, those of you who've done SL2 or you've seen some SL2 material will see that this is very familiar. So the overall, where this fits in the whole ecosystem of leadership, because leadership formation is not a one workshop thing, it's not a one item thing. There's a whole ecosystem. When you think about why do we respect somebody as a leader, there's a whole raft of things that's in there, right? It's not just one thing. If you think about Singapore, right? Why do we respect Lee Kuan Yew as a leader? Oh, he's very strong, but there was a whole bunch of his core values mindset. He had natural giftings. He was a great speaker, strengths, super strong. Some, maybe his emotional intelligence. I don't know. Some can argue about that. Learning agility, his competencies were all there, right? Then how do we develop these ones? We've got 8 modalities: coaching, assessments, training, assignments, etc. Of which under training, this model here, so ignore the one on the right for now, is the core leadership model framework for SL2 for Blanchard. Out of that comes a whole bunch of others. So on the top left-hand corner is self-leadership, based on the same model. SL2 here is one-on-one leadership, personal leadership. This T1 to T4 is team leadership, which we just covered. This one over here is leading people to change, or organizational leadership, all based around the same philosophical foundation, right, of this servant leadership. What is it? Sorry. Yeah. Okay. And there's a whole bunch of other workshops there. This one is a coaching one, because coaching is one of the leadership styles. So people have problems there, and that's what is very popular nowadays. So coaching, the connect, focus, activate, review. This 1 Minute Manager was a best-selling book, ever since it was written. And today it's a one-day workshop for new managers, for new leaders. Building trust, and then this candid curiosity, just now we talked about a little bit, comes from a workshop called conversational capacity. Basically, it's talking about how do we have meaningful conversations over contentious topics, right? So that's a problem that's in our society nowadays. Imagine when you want to have a conversation about vaccine or no vaccine, US or China. All these, Joe Biden or Donald Trump, just list any of these topics, right? And people start fighting and unfriending each other on social media and all that kind of crazy stuff. Because somehow we've lost this ability to have reasonable, productive conversations. And that's come to the workplace as well. Okay, so that's something that we teach people, how to have the right mindset, a bit of awareness about our natural tendency, the mindset to have a good conversation, and then some of the skills, practical skills. The last one on the bottom right-hand corner here, the unaware, aware, active, advocate, that's a brand new workshop we've got called Courageous Inclusion. It's a DEI diversity what's the word, equity and inclusion workshop. It's a one-day workshop as well. Very good, and it covers lots of different diversity topics, not just racial diversity. Looks at ageism, looks at maybe national origin, looks at people who are able, disabled, not differently able. I think is the phrase. So different areas in which people may be disadvantaged. Okay, so that's what that workshop addresses. So high performance team mindset at T1, teams need clarity above all else. T2, teams need to embrace conflict. Don't be afraid of conflict. Don't run away. Don't whatever. Embrace it and work with it. There was a Jordan Peterson quote I read just yesterday. It says, conflict delayed is conflict multiplied, which is quite interesting thing to think about. And in Singapore, sometimes a bit of a cultural issue, Asian sort of Chinese, whatever. Sometimes we don't want to have conflict. We're a bit conflict averse, and then it just makes problems in the end. T3, teams thrive on trust. That trust building, that trust is a big theme there. So we've got a workshop called Building Trust as well. Help people break down what are elements of trust. Help people to reflect at their own behaviors and see what are their deficits, areas in which they have a trust deficit. Okay, areas in which things that they're doing, knowingly or unknowingly, which are causing people maybe to not trust them or to reduce their trust of them. So that's trust. And then finally, in T4, high performance teams that lead themselves. Okay, so the team sorts itself out. The leader doesn't have to be very engaged, super, busy leading in the team, firefighting, all that. So we've got a couple of events coming up. The full team leadership workshop is a one-day workshop. It's coming up 15th of September. So you can scan that QR code. It'll take you to the page where you get more information about that. And then we've got SL2, which is the cornerstone workshop. Just now I talked about it. It was the one right in the middle. That really informs all the others. It's not a prerequisite. But for example, if you do it in your company, like as an in-house thing, you could do SL2 for personal leadership, and then tag on an extra half a day to cover the team leadership. So you've got the core concepts in SL2, and then we just tag on half a day to add on the team leadership concept. So that's another way you can do it. Or if you join a public program, then it's just the whole workshop. So SL2 is a 2-day workshop. Team leadership is 1 day. Team leadership is virtual. SL2, we've got a virtual one coming up end of September and a face-to-face one coming up in October. How exciting, face-to-face courses, right? Right at the bottom here, email us. So if there's any information you want about these public workshops, you can email contact@kenblanchard.com.sg. Otherwise, if you've got any questions, even about in-house courses, contextualization of the courses to your organization, you can email me at the bottom right-hand corner, kevin.chan@momenta.biz. So that's us. Well, any questions? Maybe we can do a few minutes, 5-10 minutes of question answer. That's all I have to share in terms of content. Any questions? You can put them in the chat or just unmute and ask a question. I don't know the answer to every question, so I'll try. Otherwise, I'll come back to you. Well, if there are no questions, then thank you very much, everybody, for your time today, for coming and hanging out with us. Again, our contact's there. Feel free to grab a screenshot. You can email me after this if you've got anything else to follow up with. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes our session today. We hope you enjoyed it. Please reach out to us if you need anything or want further clarification. If not, have a wonderful rest of your day. And tomorrow begins September, which is crazy. Have a great rest of the day, everyone. Have a great week. Take care. Let me just stop
Okay.
the recording. Did you stop the recording? Recording, stop recording.